Speedrunners will spend hours or even days practicing bastion routes, learning to read the pie chart, and perfecting their tech, all in the name of saving a few seconds. One of the most powerful and yet ignored ways to do this is having efficient keybinds. It's never too late in your speedrunning career to adopt new keybinds to save you some time. And the beauty of it is, the newer you are, the easier they are to implement. You might even be able to shave minutes off your PB just by watching this video. Alright, so some of the easiest and most common keybinds I'll show you now. Shift F3 pulls up the pie chart, which is very important for a lot of aspects of the run. You'll use this to locate buried treasure, locate the fortress, preempt the stronghold, all sorts of things. You just use your number keys to navigate through it while you're unpaused from the game. So 1, 1, 2, 0 backs you out. So those are just very important numbers. Another very important one is F3 and G. This pulls up chunk borders, which once again is used for buried treasure, for finding the fortress. The list goes on. F5 changes perspectives. Another very important one is F3 and B. This toggles hitboxes, as you can see here. F3 plus C is used in conjunction with Ninja BrainBot to copy the location of it to your clipboard. In the Nether, F3C can also be used to update the angle that you need to run to get to your blind spot. Now for the rest of these settings, I'm going to assume you have both Toolscreen and standard settings installed. If you need help setting these up, I made a full MCSR Ranked setup guide and it's in the description below. Now first off, I'm going to go through the most important standard settings. The first thing you want is that standard settings is actually turned on. From here, FOV is personal preference, but I like it anywhere from 100 to Quake Pro. Your render distance, you probably want it anywhere from around 20. Other people will set it to 5 or 8 early on for buried treasure seeds, and then they'll increase it right away if it isn't a buried treasure seed. I like to keep it around 20. Frame rate and VSync, you can keep it unlimited and turn it off. You can also adjust your frame rate later on in Toolscreen itself, but for here, I like to just do it this way. GUI scale is one you can set in your settings itself, or you can have it in standard settings. Most people keep it around 3 or 4. Brightness at 500, just so you can see everything. Full screen for me, I like it on. A lot of people can play borderless. Entity distance, once again, some people will set this to 50 because it makes it easier to find buried treasure. I like to keep it at 500 and turn it down if it's a buried treasure seed. Music, I like to keep off, just an honorable mention. Auto jump off. And now we get to the movement keybinds. So hear me out on this, but strafe left, strafe right, I've set to O for strafe left and M for strafe right. Later on, you need to change this in your tool screen, and I'll explain why. Your pick block, you can rebind to whatever you want. Most people have it on middle mouse button by default. I have a broken scroll wheel, so I've set it to button 4, which is the side mouse button. Pick block allows you to grab items directly from your inventory instead of having to open it. It's really useful for 1 cycles or 0 cycles. Here we get to our hotbar slots. Now, from 6 onwards, we've rebinded as ZXCV. Now, this just makes it easier to switch to the 6 through 9 hotbar slot, which is very useful because you can't usually reach those with your hands. Now, essentially, that makes half of your hotbar useless if you can't reach those buttons, which is why a lot of people will rebind it just to comfortable things. This is what I've practiced with and what I find most comfortable. You can change it to whatever you like. Offhand, some people will rebind this to the tilde key, which is right above tab. Toggle perspective, you can switch this, but you can also switch it later on in Toolscreen. The pie directory, this one, most pro runners will set it to root.gamerenderer.level.entities. And this is used for buried treasure or preemptive stronghold. If you've set it to this, it'll always be on the buried treasure. You might have to back it out and go tick, level, entities, block entities in order to find the fortress. Take note that a lot of people will just do this while they're entering the Nether first. Now we have it set so that we can easily find the fortress. In the F3 settings, you can have hitboxes always toggled to on when you first start. In more settings, you could have your perspective set to third person if you wanted, where you'll always have a view from behind and it'll help you scan the whole world very quickly. A lot of pro players or really good players like hacks will do this right away no matter what their seed is, just to get as much information as possible. So it could be a good idea. Now we'll go over some tool screen settings and I'll show you them in action. To navigate to it, go to Inputs, Keyboard, scroll to the bottom, make sure Enable Key Rebinding is on, and then open your keyboard layout. This is the newest version of Toolscreen. It looked different in older versions. The first thing I'll go over is my A and D, which I've rebinded to O and M as I mentioned before. When you're doing this, you click Split Rebind, and you want it to type as A, as like before, but the triggers is O. What this allows you to do is while you're doing preemptive and scanning for the portal room, you can still walk around because it's rebinded to these other buttons. Certain buttons when pressed with F3 will have a debug override, which makes it so that you can't walk and press that button at the same time when holding F3. A and D are two examples of that, which is why you can't use them as strafe buttons and also press F3 at the same time. Another easy way around this, if you don't care about the F3A, F3D hotkeys, is just come to your hotkey section in Toolscreen, add a new hotkey, click this button, type F3 and A, and then simply go and check the block key from game. When you've done this, you don't have to rebind your movement keys like your strafe left or right. Because of how commonly it's used, rebinding F3 to something easily accessible is very common practice. I use a side mouse button. It allows me to walk and strafe at the same time while I'm pressing it, as you can see here. Another really common rebind is mouse button 4 for your toggle perspective. This is one that I've yet to implement. However, I really would like to. The reason I can't is because of the broken scroll wheel, but a lot of people will use this very frequently in bastions to see above them, or at the start of the game when they need to gather as much information as possible, as I mentioned before with hacks. Rebinding it to something accessible on your mouse is usually the best course of action. A lot of people use the side button. When you're scanning for the fortress and trying to drop your render distance, you'll notice it's a lot harder to do because you have to crouch by pressing left shift usually. Because of this, a very common rebind is to set your caps lock or another commonly pressed button such as Alt, anything like that, to your right shift. This allows you to decrease your render distance while still walking around or strafing, as you can see here. This keybind also allows you to toggle your shift F3 without crouching. This crouch can be a pretty minor difference, however it's good practice just learning how to do it from the beginning. Another setting to take note of is the key repeat start delay and key repeat delay. If I set this to system default and try to increase my render distance, you can see it's very slow when I'm holding it. However, if I put this to 2 ms or even 1 and then hold it, it goes really fast when I'm holding it. The problem you'll find when you're doing this is you'll sometimes get a double press just by pressing it once, so you have to be very careful. I find a nice middle ground for me is about 60 ms. This allows it to not go too fast, but still quick enough that I can still walk around and do it. The key repeat start delay, I keep at 140. This is because if I have it any lower, I notice the same thing where I'll get double presses with my F3 from time to time. You could try to replicate other people's hotkeys forever. One of the best runners in Fume famously uses a MOBA mouse for his hotkeys, and this guy beat it with a trackpad on a MacBook. What I'm trying to say is you can become one of the best runners with any hotkey you choose to use as long as you know what options you have out there. Let me know if I gave you any useful rebinds in this video or if you have any wacky ones of your own that you want to show me.